He'll just rattle along.
Hudson County View live and uncut. I'm your host, the guy that tells you 2 and 2 makes 3, your favorite cult of personality, John Heinis, latest and greatest at Hudson County News. So obviously we got a heck of a lot happening right now. I mean, today is a super busy day. So first, let's talk a little bit about something you're going to hear me talking about a lot in the next few months. That's West New York. So we know the full ticket for Public Affairs Commissioner Cosmo Cirillo. We know that he was the first to announce a bid for mayor in December. And now we know the 4 people that he'll be running with. As many of you know, the Board of Commissioners form a government. The voters actually elect 5 commissioners. Then the commissioners amongst themselves elect the mayor. And that's just going to be super, super interesting when you have former Congressman, Mayor, and Assembly Speaker Albio Series all running his ticket, and then you got former Mayor Felix Roque also running a ticket. So yeah, that's going to be the race to watch. I think that goes without saying this spring. So obviously we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Also, in the Mile Square City, we're going to talk about what's going on with this rent control ordinance. Now, a lot of people were unhappy with what went down last week. The first reading was before the City Council, but a lot of people weren't even aware that there were some amendments made between Tuesday and Wednesday, and that includes the Mile Square Taxpayers Association. So we're going to talk about that, as well as the Hoboken Fair Housing Association, who also came out against this. Usually those two sides are at odds, but not this time. Now, we're also going to chat a little bit about what's going on in Jersey City. Obviously, they've had these issues with payroll, so we're going to try to dive into a little bit about what exactly is happening there and what's being done to remedy that situation. So all that and a little bit more right after this word from our sponsors.
150 around front, please.
We designed the F-150 to be tough. And we delivered on towing and payload like you'd expect. We also made it smart, starting with an available hybrid powertrain. This engine also allows you to use your truck as a high wattage generator. It's the kind of capability that a truck owner's really never had before.
The Ford Maverick is a smaller truck, but the available 2.0-liter EcoBoost engine has plenty of horsepower and torque and allows you to tow all kinds of stuff. And if you need to take the Maverick out past city limits, there's select drive modes to take on different terrains, as well as the FX4 off-road package with all-wheel drive.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, John Heinis. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about a move that really nobody that I know saw coming. And this is the Hudson Reporter newspaper. They had 8 different editions throughout the years, the most prominent being the Bayonne Community News. And on Friday, we heard that after 40 years, they're closing up shop. And, this is a very unfortunate set of circumstances. Obviously, New Jersey's seen a ton of newspapers close in the past decade or so. But obviously this one hits close to home. 4 decades covering local news, and the only reason that we even heard about this, there wasn't a formal statement. There was no press release, no video release, nothing of that sort. All we got was a couple tweets from a couple of the staff writers, the only 2 staff writers that were left, actually. And one of them was Dan Israel. And in short, he came out and said that the reporters have been told that Friday is the last day, no more publication, no more online, and there's going to be no severance pay for anybody on staff. So just a really, really sad and unfortunate set of circumstances. This is a place that's been around, a publication that's been around since 1983. That was founded by Joe Barry. He's a prominent developer. You guys probably know him from Iron State. And they ended up getting sold a few times over the years, and the most recent was in 2018 to the Newspaper Media Group. They're based out of South Jersey, and they have over 50 weekly publications throughout central South Jersey and a little bit in the Philadelphia region too. So, look, the Hudson Reporters had some tough times in recent years. In 2016, they moved out of that iconic office location they had at 14th and Washington Street in Hoboken. They ended up going to Broadway in Bayonne at about 2018. I think that was around the summertime. And then about 2 years later, they moved a little further down the street, also staying on Broadway, moving to a smaller office. And the worst part about that is they really barely got a chance to use it due to the COVID pandemic. So again, my heart goes out to those guys and girls that lost their jobs. I mean, a lot of good people have come out of this publication. And while I never worked there, I did work with quite a few people that have, and they were really reliable, just really good writers and just good guys and gals. So, unfortunate set of circumstances, but unfortunately, the beat goes on, and that's all we could do. So, moving forward, let's talk a little bit about nitty-gritty politics in the Peninsula City. So we're first going to talk about Bayonne Assemblyman William Sampson. So as you guys know, last month, as we talked about on this program, the Waterfront Commission of New York Bay Harbor came up with this decision that Sampson had not been working his required hours in 2022, and therefore they were issuing a suspension of his license, meaning that he would no longer be able to work on the waterfront port. He was a crane operator. Now, this is something that was well covered. This is something that big publications like Politico ended up picking up. And, Sampson made a couple public statements basically saying that he wanted another chance. He felt like this deserved further review. And then a couple weeks ago, the commission met and they decided that, or I should say that they heard some testimony from counsel representing Sampson. And they basically said our decision will be forthcoming. Well, the decision came out last week, and as it turns out, they're sticking to their guns. Another unanimous vote, which is just 2-0. But nonetheless, a unanimous vote, and they are not going to be giving his license back. So obviously, he's going to need a new gig outside of the State Assembly. Sampson, a 33-year-old Bayonne resident, was the replacement of Assembly Majority Whip Nick Shravalati. Obviously, he had a falling out with Bayonne Mayor Jimmy Davis. And to this day, we still don't know exactly what happened, but Sampson was the pick to succeed him. And this was something that his union, the International Longshoremen's Association, took pretty seriously. That's Local 1588. And they actually had a special meeting on the same day that the Waterfront Commission heard this, and they agreed, they voted to spend $50,000 on this case. Obviously, doesn't appear that was money well spent at this moment. So I don't know exactly what comes next for Sampson, but it's probably safe to say that his assembly gig is not in any actual danger. But nonetheless, we're going to keep our eye on it, and if he gets a gig somewhere at the Board of Ed or the county, wherever else, we're certainly going to let you know as soon as possible. So one more out of Bayonne before we jump to another break. We're going to talk about a former football coach that is accused of groping one of his colleagues. So this is an unusual situation, to say the least. So let me just look up the particulars. Just give me a moment here. So this is a guy who used to be the head football coach. This is Ricardo Rodriguez. He's 61 years old. He's from Bayonne. Now, we heard from the Bayonne Police Department, who emailed us saying they had a special announcement. That's something they typically don't do. And long story short, he was charged with criminal sexual contact, according to Police Captain Eric Amato. He was taken into custody last week due to an incident that was reported on January 9th. Long story short, a 51-year-old victim alleges that they were both at Bayonne High School, and Rodriguez touched her inappropriately at about 7:55, shortly before classes started. Basically, he said, according to the victim, he went to give her a hug, and then he proceeded to touch her on the buttocks and breasts, and that's why the situation is where it is. And I heard from Superintendent of Schools, John Neese, and he said that this teacher has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. As this situation progresses, we're obviously going to let you know. We're going to take our next break. We'll be right back after this word from our sponsors.
Jersey City Ford, certified parts and service, located at Route 440 and Communipaw Ave, is your #1 source for Ford and Lincoln automotive needs. We use certified Ford Motorcraft products to keep your Ford running in top shape. Motorcraft parts are backed with the Ford warranty, which includes a 2-year unlimited mileage guarantee. Our team will have the right Motorcraft part to ensure the best performance from your Ford or Lincoln. You can order in person at the parts counter or online. Let us help keep your Ford or Lincoln in the best shape at Stevens Jersey City Ford.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunley Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Hudson County View live and uncut. Shout out Heinis. So let's talk about my favorite New York, West New York. And again, this is going to be a barn burner on May 9th. I've said it before. I'm going to say it many, many more times between now and then. But it's officially a three-way dance. We heard from former Mayor Felix Roque. He was elected in 2011. He was the upstart candidate back then, running against incumbent Sal Vega, who had the backing of the Hudson County Democratic Organization. He pulled off the upset. His team won a clean sweep in a relatively close election, and then he won again with the full support of the HCDO in 2015. However, the tide turned in 2019. Then Congressman Albio Series backed the New Beginnings West New York ticket, which was headed by Gabriel Rodriguez, who was at the time a commissioner, and he also happens to be Series' godson. So that's an interesting dynamic. That team ended up sweeping. As I mentioned to you earlier, Cosmo Cirillo is already running for mayor, and Series is declared as well. In case you haven't heard, which I would imagine you are if you're watching this program, but just in case, Gabriel Rodriguez is headed to the State Assembly with the backing of the county Dems. So with that said, we heard from Roque at Las Palmas, and in an interview he told me, we all know what's been happening the last 4 years in West New York, and the reality is we haven't seen nothing. And like people were saying in there, they haven't seen the mayor hasn't done anything. Roque said of his successor, Rodriguez, and he said now there's got to be a change, and I'm ready to make that change. So, you know, Roque made some pretty bold allegations, as he's known to do, and he said that crime in West New York has been out of control under this administration. He said both the youth and elders in town have seen their quality of life compromised due to drug dealers, and while he said the proposals made by Series, which is a new media center, a library, and a school, are good ideas, he said there are more pressing issues that need to be addressed first. So again, he said, listen, you cannot build a new school without having good security in the town, and I'm a military man. The first thing you do in the Army is you set up a perimeter, and that's what I need to do. Bring more police, more protection, not only for the schools. You know the drug dealers are out there trying to poison our children with all this synthetic fentanyl and all these drugs, and you know all seniors are exposed daily. So on that point, one of his running mates that he announced, which we all totally expected, you know, that's Tommy Mannion. He's a former West New York Policemen's Benevolent Association president. You know, we saw them together at a courtesy breakfast earlier this month. Actually, maybe that was the end of December, excuse me. And he said that he was pretty much all in to run with Roque as long as Roque was going to announce. But just the sheer fact that he was hosting that breakfast was a pretty clear indicator in my mind. So, you know, Mannion's another longtime resident, and Roque said that this would help bolster his efforts to improve public safety, keep streets clean, keep the crime low, and of course, keep taxes stable. Now, the other running mate that he announced, which was pictured in the story, is that Carmen Baez, who's a real estate professional and a first-time candidate, will be trying her hand at elected office here. She was born in the Dominican Republic, has been in this country for 26 years, and has 2 children. So that's an interesting choice, obviously, going with more of a salt-of-the-earth approach, I guess you could say. So now, again, as I just noted, in 2019, Roque and his team ended up getting swept, and I asked him why this would be different, and this was his reply. For the last 4 years, Who's been running the show in West New York? The answer is Albio Series. So if he hasn't done anything in 4 years, you're telling me he's going to do other things in the next couple of years? The answer is no. So obviously the voters will decide that in a few months, and we're going to stay on top of this like white on rice. You guys know that I really enjoy a West New York election, and this may be, I don't want to jinx it, the best one yet, at least in my tenure. So on this topic, let's keep on going, and let's talk a little bit about the West New York forward slate. That's the slate being run by Public Affairs Commissioner Cosmo Cirillo, and he named his fifth and final candidate, and that's going to be Walter Lopez. So if that name sounds a little bit familiar to you, that's because he's actually the husband of a former commissioner under Sal Vega, and that's Michelle Lopez. So let's see what Commissioner Cirillo had to say about this choice. He said, throughout the pandemic, Walter Lopez bravely served as an essential healthcare worker while doing his best to help save lives. He is also an experienced public employee that currently works for the town. This is another well-known member of our community that will work very hard to help West New York the best it can be. Now, Michelle Lopez, for those of you that have been following along for a while, was the first female commissioner in town and, again, elected under Vega. And her husband would actually also make history if he was elected in this cycle because he would be the first Salvadorian American commissioner. And he said in a statement that, as a longtime West New York resident, I'm excited to be joining the West New York Forward team. I have had the pleasure of knowing Cosmo for over a decade and have seen his commitment to our community grow each and every day. He is exactly the type of person we need leading West New York in a bright and positive direction. Now, also of note, in 2016, there was this racketeering suit filed against the Roque administration, and they came up with a $1.2 million settlement for 15 different plaintiffs. And among those two were Walter Lopez and Michelle Lopez, who got $150,000 and $200,000 respectively. So that's kind of interesting. And actually, I totally forgot about this, but somebody pointed out to me yesterday that in that same settlement, Tommy Mannion got $75,000, and now he's running with Roque. So, 7 years is a lifetime in Hudson County politics, I think we could safely say. So before we go to a break, now we know Cirillo's full team. He's running with Revenue and Finance Commissioner Margarita Guzman, Assemblywoman Angelica Jimenez, who won't have a spot on the line due to redistricting, and Hiram Gonzalez, who is a local coach and program coordinator. He's the first one to unveil his whole ticket. So with that, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back.
Panapinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintodevelopment.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in one of our many high-rise towers. With amenities such as the on-site Newport Path, light rail, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Kohl's, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams and Acme Supermarket are just outside your front door. A health and fitness center, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. Enjoy the New York skyline from our waterfront and various parks. Manhattan is just one pass stop away, or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Looking to visit? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. For more information, visit us at newportnj.com. Make lasting memories to cherish forever. It's incredible. It's you, Newport. Live like you want.
Not everyone celebrates the birth of a baby. You have options. Don't panic. New Jersey has safe havens for unwanted infants. Leave the baby with staff at any hospital, ER, police or fire station, or rescue squad. Call the number on your screen for safe haven locations or go to www.njsafehaven.org. No shame, no blame, no names. Safe Haven.
Hudson County View live and uncut. Shout out Heinis. So while we're on the topic of West New York, let me just close out with this thought. So today at 1:30 p.m., Albio Series, again, the former congressman, the former mayor, the former state assembly speaker will be unveiling his ticket. So I'm not going to be able to make it. As many of you know, today is the court hearing for Jersey City Councilwoman at Large Amy DeGeese for her July 19th hit and run. And given that that's in Newark at 1 o'clock, I mean, unless it's over in 5 minutes, there's no way anyone would be able to do both. So I can exclusively report at this moment that series ticket will be Commissioner Victor Herrera, and then we're also going to have Board of Education President Adam Parkinson. We're also going to have Board of Education Trustee Marielka Diaz, and then we're going to have Marcos Arroyo. Now, for those of you that think that name sounds familiar, that's because Marcos is actually a Republican, and he's the one who ran against Rob Menendez, the man who's succeeding Albio Series in Congress last year in November. So that's kind of an interesting twist. That's an interesting composition of a ticket. So I'm not really sure what that means going forward, but I do know that the majority of that ticket does have some pretty good name recognition. So we're going to see what we see. Obviously Roque still has to announce the remaining 2 members of his slate. So with that, let's go to the Mile Square City and let's talk a little bit about this settlement between CarePoint Health and the Hoboken Municipal Hospital Authority. Now, CarePoint obviously is working to become a nonprofit. This has been in the works for over a year, I think about 15, 16 months. And, they just had that settlement with Alaris Health. And while that bad blood is still there with Hudson Regional Hospital out of Secaucus, they're trying to basically shore up any other support that they could get throughout the county. And now they're doing that at the Mile Square City, which is obviously a tricky place to navigate. So let's talk a little bit about what exactly is going on here. So in February, so just under a year ago, there was this lawsuit filed by CarePoint that made some pretty serious allegations. They said the board shared confidential information and went beyond the scope of their authority, to put it very simply. In one specific instance, the lawsuit contends that the HMHA put out a request for indications for the Hoboken University Medical Center, despite the fact that they don't own the hospital property. It's actually owned by HRH, which included financial statements that were not public records at the time. However, CarePoint and Hoboken, similar to, like I just said, with Alaris, seem happy to be putting this behind them. Now, we heard from CarePoint President and CEO, Dr. Achinta Malik, and he said, "I am pleased to have come to an agreement with the Hoboken Municipal Hospital Authority so that we can return our focus to providing outstanding patient-centric care to residents of Hoboken and Hudson County." And we also heard from Mayor Ravi Bala, and he was pretty enthusiastic about this development. He said since saving the hospital in 2011 under Mayor Zimmer's administration, Hoboken has been fully committed to ensuring that emergency health care is available for whatever residents are in need. I am looking forward to improved care and service from CarePoint in the years ahead. So now this is again, all to make this nonprofit transition a little smoother. They've always been a for-profit entity, and the reason that we were given as to why they're making this change is because this opens up a wide array of funding and grant opportunities that you can't do as a for-profit corporation. So obviously this is going to come down to the New Jersey Department of Health. I imagine they're going to grant it eventually, but again, we're approaching a year and a half here, and it hasn't really moved a whole heck of a lot, so I imagine it's going to take a while. But we're going to keep our eye on it, and we're certainly going to keep you informed. So now let's talk back on the municipal level to the Hoboken City Council. Now, we had this rent control ordinance, and this does quite a few things, and we heard quite a few people speak about it from both sides. Both landlords and tenants really weren't particularly excited about this. And as I mentioned at the top of the program, the fact that there were some changes made between Tuesday and Thursday really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So now, for one thing, the base rental that they're going to use under this amendment, should it get approved on second reading on February 1st, is that the base rental from 1985 will be used as the universal stating point, which distorts calculations of increases based on the consumer price index. So, a lot of very technical language here, which also made people a little unhappy that this did get carried. But nonetheless, there is an annual maximum rental increase from 7.5% to 5%. So, you would think that would be a tenant-friendly gesture. Nonetheless, we heard from Councilman at Large Jim Doyle at this meeting, and he defended it. He said this was an effort to largely help clarify uncertainties and get the rent board back on track so that people who needed help and protection from whatever the circumstances are would not have to wait. We're currently having a backlog. The notion that this is weakening tenant protections, I think, is an unfortunate characterization. It was broke. It needs help. There is an effort in that regard. The rent control ordinance is really about protecting the inventory of apartments, not just the existing tenant today. Now, he said the CPI cap was also increased from 4 to 5%. Again, a lot of technical stuff going on here. So we have a little more to parse through. So let's take another break, and I'll unpack it a little more right after this word from our sponsors.
This thing rips. Oh, it is so quick. There's a lot of punch packed into this Bronco Sport. It's got a ton of horsepower. I love it. All right, now we're getting hairy. Now we're getting the fun stuff. Yeah. I like how we can get over or around almost anything.
Yeah, I dig your ride. I super dig it. It's gonna be a good day.
Growing up can be tough on kids. So much is going on in the world that can cause depression or anxiety. Unusual behavior for more than 6 months could mean they need help. Don't wait. For real-time mental health support and counseling, call New Jersey's Children's System of Care. CSOC offers free mental health supports, substance use treatment, and services for intellectual or developmental disabilities for all kids up to age 21. Call now, 1-877-652-7624.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick. Built to defy expectations.
Hudson County View live at Uncut. John R. Heinis. All right, so let's get back to this rent control vote. So, we heard from 6th Ward Councilwoman Jen Giattino. She, was really upset about the fact, again, that these changes were made overnight. And she said, last time I voted on something overnight, she got cut off by the council president, Emily Jabor. And, she called for order. There was a little bit of rumblings in the crowd. And eventually we finally got to a vote. There was a motion to carry from 2nd Ward Councilwoman Tiffany Fisher. And Fisher and Giattino, along with 4th Ward Councilman Ruben Ramos, voted in favor. Obviously, that's not enough to pass. And then the same vote was 6-3 again for the first reading of the ordinance. So now this is far from over, though. First of all, there's a public meeting on Wednesday. It's via Zoom, and that's going to be at 6 o'clock. And I posted the link on a story that we put up a little later last night, probably just before 8 o'clock. And there's a pre-registration link. So if you are interested in this topic and this is something that you'd like to speak on in front of city officials and probably your peers as well, remember to sign up, because if you don't sign up, you can't access the meeting. Now, the reason that this is particularly interesting is the Mile Square Taxpayers Association, who I said is against this. They felt like they got hoodwinked here because they did not know about the changes. And even when they spoke at the council meeting, he said no one made them aware of those amendments. And so now the executive director, Ron Simoncini, really came out hard against the way that this all went down. He said, this is an email that was forwarded to me. He said, these revisions were matters of the essence, as you can clearly see below, and not clarifications. As such, they should have been withdrawn and offered on proper notice at a later meeting to begin with, and I personally took it for granted that if the first reading was on the agenda, it meant that the essence of the law was consistent with its original drafting, which it is not. So obviously that's, not that crazy, but he continued that in an email. He explained that he was unaware that amendments had been made between Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, claiming that backtracking on allowable rent increases will lead to rent increases and go against what former Judge Barry Sarkeesian recommended. So this is the more interesting part. He said STA believes that a public hearing that public hearings are in order prior to any second reading of these amendments, because not only does the public not have access to Judge Sarkeesian's report, most council people have not seen it. It's a travesty that, I'm sorry to say, has no place in honest government. So, obviously he feels a certain kind of way, and this Zoom meeting is going to be quite interesting. Again, that's tomorrow, Wednesday at 6 p.m., and there's a pre-registration link on our website in that story if you're interested in speaking out. So just a couple real quick items before we call it a week. We heard from U.S. Senators Bob Menendez and Cory Booker. New York Waterway and NJ Transit got $7.298 million in federal funds to upgrade 4 Hudson County ferries. Basically, what they're trying to do is make these fully electric. So first, they're going to convert these old diesel vessels to hybrids, and then eventually the goal is to make them fully electric. So that's an interesting piece of funding I did not expect to come through. And then there was a really wild arrest we heard also in the Mile Square City. This suspect who they've identified as hang on, that's Stephen, sorry, lost my tab here. So they've identified Stephen Yobas, 37, of Jersey City, as a guy who was arrested for stealing packages, and when they finally tried to detain him, he actually punched and choked an officer, allegedly, and then when he was arrested, he began threatening to kill officers, and he tried to kick out the windows of the police car. So that's a wild one that we just posted this morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you the latest updates that we can during this Amy DeGee's hearing. Beyond that, we're going to catch you next week. Have a good one.